Live streaming this
Hmm.
meeting, this very serious meeting of minds.
We're very serious.
Very serious.
It's so funny because, like, speaking of our topic of, like, having big dreams and short bandwidths, right? It's like this is really a conversation about creation and, the natural flow and getting what is that for us. But I think that I love how you started out with serious because everybody thinks they have to be serious. Like if they create, like if I'm going to create an empire, I've got to get serious and I've got to get busy and I got to, and so it's like, okay, so you just use a ton of energy from just your come from of serious, right? And
Yeah.
what else, if you weren't serious, what energy could you free up,
That sounds like what we're going to talk about today.
it does. It sounds dangerously like what we might be talking about
Yeah.
today. So, like, so should we tell people who we are and why they
No,
should listen to us? Okay,
no,
good.
that
All
would
right,
be too
let's not.
serious. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. Um, so hopefully we're streaming. We'll find out if we are, but I'm Jen because you may know that because you were streaming on my page, and I have the lovely, amazing, super fun Megan Silito with me, and we're here to just have some fun and talk about creation, talk about when we've made creation serious, and talk about what's possible to make it a little more easier and create even more from that space. And Megan is one of these like masterful people who's been studying consciousness and creation and teaching and sharing and transforming people's lives. And so I love having conversations about creation from you. And whenever I get into my old habits, my default of it's gotta be hard and I have to work hard to make my living and run my business and run my household, Megan comes in and she's like psh, 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 and
Do
she
you look like that?
I do. It feels like that. And then she like whispers to me, Jen, have you forgotten your magic? I'm like, oh shit, I did. I forgot it again. Did you
Hmm.
forget what a powerful creator you are? Oh, I did. Okay. I need
Hmm.
I need a little dose of Megan back in my life. So we thought it'd
Hmm.
be fun to come on and have a conversation.
Hmm.
So
Well,
welcome,
yes,
Megan.
yes, thank you. Well, I think that conversation is especially important right now, not serious, but important because I think most people can feel and sense that things are changing. Like there's a lightening, there's a raise in frequency happening for all of us on the planet. Things are moving really fast, like really fast. Like I thought they were sped up 10 years ago, and now I'm like, whoa, we're on Mach speed. But we're still trying to make things happen. And I say that on purpose. We're still trying to make things happen from an old model. And
Yeah.
I actually like part of why I love having these conversations because most of the coaching industry is still subscribing to the old model of,
Hmm.
like, okay, you got to do this and you got to do this and you got to do this and you got to work and you got to really make it happen. And, if it's not happening, you're not working hard enough. And like, oh my gosh, like, it's
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, like, if I wanted life coaching from my father, I would have hired him. Like, I mean, and when I say my father, like he was born in the father that raised me was born in 1917. It's a very, very old model of creation. And part of the issue with it is that it actually works, meaning that it you can get results by taking massive action all day, every day, 6, 7 days a week. You absolutely can, but there's a cost on every level to creating from that place. And now, because the energy has sped up, if you're creating from this old, heavy energy, your results are going to have a harder time and a longer time finding you because you're not on the vibe that actually is moving our world and our universe right now. And so it's working less, and there's health problems that go with that. There's relational upset that goes with that. I'm just tired.
Yeah.
I'm just freaking overwhelmed that goes with that. And when you're doing something that you love and you want to do it forever and you're burning yourself out, that's a problem.
So I have a question for you,
Yeah.
and like for me, and I'm just reflecting back to myself as a work in progress, where like I had that dad, right, who work hard, right, and it's so
Hmm.
pervasive in our society and our cultural, success, work hard, climb the ladder, all these things that we've been operating from. And as a business owner, I have to readjust myself all the time because I think that programming is so deeply embedded to
Yes.
create from that space, right?
Yeah.
Create from that hardship and all the old programs of money doesn't grow on trees and all these things of hardship and struggle. So, like, what would you say is like the most effective or important or valuable thing that we can do to, start to clear that out so then we can create from greater ease and greater
Hmm.
expansion? I don't know what the word is.
Hmm. Well, I think the first thing is we have to begin to recognize that when we're pushing the rock up the hill, Sisyphus or whatever his name was, when you're like, ugh,
Yeah.
that it actually is a construct. It's not real. It's not how you do it. The first thing is you have to realize it's not real. Because if you really think that that's how to create, then you won't be able to apply the new creation principles, right? Because you won't even recognize it because you're just doing it and that's how you do it. And
Yeah.
I'm like you, Jen, like not only was my dad born in 1917, but we lived on a farm, dude, and we worked all the freaking time. And like
Sure.
we worked so we could work. Like there was no such thing as, oh, we're going to have a summer vacation because you work so hard. No, summer we were working the entire time. Like there was no vacations. And so even though I teach this stuff, I feel sometimes that, oh, and so then the number one thing besides really going after the construct, and there's a lot of ways to do that. Um, like almost everything I teach has to do with undoing that struggle and hardship. And you could tap it out, you could blink it out, you could pot and pock it out. Like you first have to realize that it's not actually true,
Hmm.
that it is a choice and something that you could look at even, like you could say, oh, Jen, Megan, you're super wooey, like you don't know about the real world. But you know what? I um I sought out millionaires for a period of time. You actually were in a program that I interviewed happy millionaires, right? And almost without exception, people who are making a lot of money who are happy, not people who are making a lot of money and they're miserable, but people who are making a lot of money are happy, don't work very much.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like the more like, and if it was about working harder, right? Then there'd be a lot of rich janitors, right? It's
Yeah.
not about working harder.
Right.
It's about working with our gifts, working with our capacities. And one of my very favorite things to do is to help people find their creative signature, like how they actually create, what gifts, what capacities do they have that when they're activated, creation is ease. And for me, one of those signatures is fun, right? If
Hmm.
I'm like really, if I'm really serious about something, like I got so much to do, that's, I'm being dad. I'm
Mm.
actually not being me. I am actually being, a, you know, people that did that for a living. Now, here's the dealio. Thank goodness that there were people who were willing to work 18 hours a day and farm the fields and, get us to this point. I think it was required at one point,
Yeah.
but actually we have to change the model. We're not driving a horse. I'm going to come into Dallas in the middle of May, and I'm not taking a horse and buggy. The model has changed.
You're not bringing your farm with you.
So yeah, the model's changed. We got to upgrade.
Yeah.
We have to update the model because the way that how fast things are moving, that's the other thing, is that because things are sped up, if you're not moving at that speed, and I'm going to call that the speed of space, if you're not moving at that speed, you're going to miss shit. Because if you're doing the whole horse and plow, you're going to have a really hard time keeping up with the jets. You've got to actually shift your mechanism so that you're moving with the jet stream. And that's one of the reasons that, you know, airplanes save fuel, is they find that jet stream. They find, and that's, there's the workshop I'm going to be doing in Dallas is called the movement of creation. The movement of creation. And what that is it's really about finding your jet stream. It's really about finding that place where the energy moves you. And if that sounds weird to you, I want you to go outside and watch the wind move the trees. I want you to watch the water move the waves. It turns the rocks into sand. That is what creation is. It's a movement. And if you're playing do to get, I gotta do to get, you're actually stilting. You're actually not in the movement. You're actually in a certain way going against the jet stream.
And you know, that's so going against is I think such a powerful concept and awareness. Like I remember doing a summit in the beginning of this year, because I moved my business from more of an in-person practice to doing, you know, courses and online and all that. And so I'm like, okay, like I got to build my foundation. I have to, you know, shift gears and do things differently. So I did this summit, and it was all about that. Like, okay, you're 4 posts on social media a day, and you gotta, you know, send this many emails to get this kind of thing, and you have to do all these exercises every single day to get these kind of results. And so afterwards I'm like, all right, like I'm all geared to go with all these things that are going to make my business successful. Well, when it came down to it, and I'm silly, Megan. You know, I'm a little bit stubborn with the shifting of the consciousness. Bear with me. And so, but I felt like fully equipped, right? And like there's so many coaches and really powerful, like multi-millionaire people out there teaching these concepts that were effective, that probably still are effective. But when I looked at the stuff I had to do every day just to like function in my business, it was like a 12-hour workday. I was like, there's no way in hell I can do this. And it was very regimented, structured, like, okay, here is the rules that you follow. And then when I started to kind of feel into that, I was like, this feels not good. It feels really heavy. It feels really like time consuming and lots of hard work. And so I think that going against is a really important thing to pay attention to, because the conversation out there is that, like, the majority of the conversation out there is doing creation in a way that, you know, follow these steps, take this kind of business school, and do XYZ to, you know, reap the goals. And I think this conversation's really unique because so many other people are doing it the other way. And then like it perpetuates that hardness, and it's a disconnection from like you're talking about, like that's not a way that I feel comfortable creating. Like it didn't feel right in my body. It didn't feel right. And so I think this conversation and what you're sharing is like learning how to find our own jet stream, but it's also going in the way that is against what's being so communicated out there. Like every time I go onto my Facebook page or anything, I'm getting all these ads about business and whatever. I mean, so many. You got to do it this way, and you got to do it this way. And so I think this conversation is really unique because it's really reframing this fundamental way we have of creating not just our businesses but our lives.
Yeah.
So what do you have to say about that?
I have so much to say about that. And I'm going to say this again. If the goal is to get a particular result, i.e., I'm a 7-figure coach, i.e., I'm visible, I have this many followers, do you know what I mean? If that's your goal, that can work. And if that also matches your personality, because for some people, that level of structure, it fits their creational blueprint.
Mm.
That's the other thing you have to remember, is that people that are teaching the 5 steps and the 7 habits and the this and the that, hopefully if they're in integrity, and a lot of them actually aren't, but if they are in integrity with what they're teaching you how they did it. There's almost 8 billion people on the planet. I just read 7.9 billion people, which means there's 7.9 billion ways to create. And what they don't tell you is that less than 1% of the population is actually successful modeling those steps. Why is that? Not because they're wrong, not because they're bad, but because they're not in harmony with that creational style. You're not in harmony with that creational style, Jen. Also, people are coming to you and to me for our vibration. There's an energy there's a vibration that we are, that's healing, that's nurturing, that's creative, that's inspiring, that's light a fire under your ass, whatever all of that is. If we're not being that, if we're playing the do to get game with all the posts and all the things and all the da, then that energy is being diminished that people are coming for in the first place. We've got to find things that are energetically aligned. And this conversation is probably a little bit deeper than we have the space for here on Facebook Live. So if this conversation's interesting to you, I'm going to suggest that you look into the movement of creation in Dallas, Texas on the 13th and 14th, because we're going to go dive really deep into this. But I'm going to say, I'm going to give you a cliff note here, or some of the cliff notes, which is that when you discover what your creational blueprint is, you learn how to connect to the consciousness of that which you're creating, and you actually do what you need to do to get into open space. The creation in the universe will move you where you need to be when you need to be. So if you need to do 3 posts that day, you'll kind of feel it. You'll kind of be in the mode. It'll feel good to you. It's
Right.
not that I'm saying, or that you're saying, don't do those things. What I'm saying is, do you first and foremost get yourself turned on and turned up, and get in communion with that which you're creating, and then ask the questions that will allow you to feel the whispers of creation as they come through you. And then there's this sort of flow and ease. I mean, it was interesting because I've got so many new possibilities coming in, and they came in such a different way. I was asking for one thing, but it came in another way, and it's actually giving more of what I've been asking for a really long time. And so short form is that I have a lot going on right now. And last week I did a couple of days of farm girl. I just gotta do it. I just gotta pump it out, all the things, right? And I exhausted myself. I was like, oh, can't do that no more. But I also had some days of doing it from the way I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I worked the same amount, I got way more done. I had way more energy. I had a blast. I played the whole time. And it's like, yes, like when you're moving with creation, it's generative. You don't get exhausted. You don't get burnt out. Because yes, there are some days. We're not prescribing you sit in your living room and meditate on how things can come to you. Although that too, right? I'm not saying anything against that. I'm just saying that it does require action. But what action? And when that action is aligned with who you be and with your gifts, magic happens. That's when we get into the magic of like, whoa, this person, this person, right? And it's like, it's so fun when you're creating from that space. And yes, it's useful to understand systems from the perspective of what system is actually a good vehicle for who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm a big fan of taking a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of that. It's like, okay, I like that. I think that works. That, no, you know, and I let myself play with creating the systems that support who I am.
Yeah, I notice when I do things the farm girl style, I'll sit
Mm-hmm.
down and everything feels really hard. It feels like I'm sometimes the computer will just shut down because the universe is like, nope, we're not doing it this way. But it feels like you're creating like walking through sludge, right? Or against the wind. And then there's times where I'll sit down and everything feels really light. It happens really fast. And then what I notice when I'm in that space is the synchronicities start to flow in so much more easily.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, oh, like I didn't even know or think about that. And then here it is. It just kind of shows up for me as a, as a stepping stone. But if I'm in the other space, then I'm cranky. I'm tired and
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting for me. I think one of the old programs is like, oh, I'm very busy, very important, and I'm working really hard, and therefore I'm worthy, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I get to watch myself flip back and forth, but I would like the one reason I feel so drawn to come to the event in May is like I know that there's a greater opportunity for me to not even have to go back to that default or readjust myself because
Mm-hmm.
I'm aware that it happens, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's already happening and then I have to catch myself. I would like to just complete that cycle
Mm-hmm.
to where I can just move into, the daily
Mm-hmm.
flow of it. And
Mm-hmm.
and like you said, still incorporate some of the structures or systems that might support me, but it's really about the energy that I'm bringing to the table. And it's a deep program. It is a
Mm-hmm.
deep default program
Mm-hmm.
that I have to consistently check myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm also gonna
We will be deconstructing that at the 1 day event, or it's a day and a half event in Dallas. Um, and you said something really important, Jen, which is that you've got to know what you're getting out of this hard and struggle, right? Is that
Mhm.
very important? I'm a VIP because look at how much I'm working, For other people, what they're getting out of it is they're being loyal to their family system, or maybe their
Mm,
partner works really hard and it's like, oh, I got to match that, right? And we're
mhm.
comparing ourselves to others. We're being taught, we're being spoon fed that we should be working all the time, by coaches and all of that. Where it's and the thing about it is, I was just thinking about this while we were talking. It's like, well, of course they're selling that as the way because they actually have to have us believing that that's required to buy into that stuff. In order to
Duh.
sell their programs, they have to sell that as a principle,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
That we
Yeah.
have to buy into it.
And then it keeps cycling. It keeps moving
Mm-hmm.
through. I'm looking
Mm-hmm.
over here because I see a couple comments. For some reason, the way the feed works, I can't see everybody, but I'm looking to see if anyone has any questions. I think people are just writing, affirming.
Mm-hmm.
Shelby says, I have let go of traditional marketing things and I only send or use platforms when I feel the messages to be sent. Stepped away from under the radar to allow the collective shift. People no longer resonate with the shallow traditional marketing because people want to feel the energies of the information. I think that's really helpful.
I love that. That's very well put. And
Hmm.
I'm starting to see it a little bit in mainstream. Like Danielle Laporte has made a huge shift as of late.
Mm.
Like she's like, I am not doing push. I am not, she's doing sort of like pay what you can kind of stuff. Like she's completely changed what she was doing. And it's really cool to sense and feel the ease that I feel I didn't follow her for a long time because I felt like this push energy
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
completely shifted. And I'm like, yes, and I think that there are some people finding their way over to the jet stream, right? And being in harmony. I think it so much, I think, of what's happened to our planet is because we got out of harmony with the jet stream, with the flow, with the harmony of life. It's like when we're out of harmony with ourselves, we're going to be out of harmony with the earth, because if we're not
Right.
taking care of our body, if we're not allowing the energy to move us and to feed our body and to be in that jet stream, we're out of harmony with the earth, and we're going to do stuff that's not good for it, right? And I think when you look at the big companies, right, the Enrons and all of that, right, they're operating so out of harmony with nature, and they're destroying it. And when we do that, we are too. And so that's one of the things that I really have a hard time with the big, this is how you do it, is that if it's in harmony with you, awesome, like cool. But as a consumer, my message to anybody listening to this is like, is that in harmony with me? Is that something that when I think of doing it every day feels good to me? Because at the end of the day, even if you get that result, and I've done that before, I have done the farm girl thing to get a result on multiple occasions.
I can't
It
relate.
is not, it doesn't feel, I can't really celebrate it because I'm exhausted. And
Yeah.
what that used to lead me to is this sort of big burst of creation. And then I was so exhausted that I couldn't create again for 6 months. And so I
Yeah.
disappear, right? Because I'd be like, I don't want to do that again. Whoa. So, if you're noticing that cycle of big creations and then you're exhausted, it could be that you're really out of harmony with what it is you're creating. Because if you're in the jet stream, you don't have to take rest in the same way. Yes, you will have fun and play and rest your body because it's all part of the jet stream, but you don't have to get out of creation to rest, is what I'm saying. Rest is actually part of creation when you're in the jet stream.
Yeah. And I think that, the energy of being out of harmony is truly that energy of disconnection from self, from body, and from earth. And we
Mm-hmm.
can see, from a societal standpoint, how disconnected we are from each other, all the conflict. And we can see from how we've treated the earth, that disconnect. And it's like, it and it really diminishes our own capacity to just be in joy, to be in creation, to be in connection, right? And I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
it's quite profound. Like if you look at the really big perspective, the highest perspective of this is that when we're in that alignment, when we're in that jet stream, that that connection and that oneness and the ability to like be in that harmonic flow, I mean that's like the mana of creation of the universe right
Mm-hmm.
there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's a lot, like I know from attending your workshops in the past, like there's programs that I'm not even that most of us are not aware of, these default programs and belief systems and thoughts, and even like fear, trapped emotions of fear, that are still running the show, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this conversation sounds really wonderful and idealistic, but then it's like, oh, how do we clear this stuff out of the way?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the point, right? Like that's the point of us coming together and opening up that space, is so that we can let go of the densities and the judgments and the thoughts and the beliefs and everything that has perpetuated the disconnection from that harmonic connection. And
And
so
whatever
it's
we think we're getting from it, whatever we think that the value that it's bringing us.
yeah.
And one of the things that, when you talk about shifting the pattern like that comes to mind is when I was playing tennis competitively, I was at this certain stage and level of competition, and I couldn't seem to get past it, right? And so I got a coach, and he's like, "Oh, there's some foundational things here, right?" And one of the things that he he pointed out was that the way that I was stroking the ball was in control. I was trying to control it where it went, right? And in tennis, and this is, I think, true in life, is that we have to actually just swing and use our energy and motion and actually give ourselves a full swing and set ourselves up in the direction of where we want ball to go. But then we just got to swing it, right? But it was so hard to break because I knew I could win at that level. I knew I could win by like kind of pushing the ball rather than stroking through the ball. And I had to get willing to lose matches and just like swing for the fences and like, okay, so that went out. Okay. And it was so hard for me to give up the control of winning because I literally, a couple years in a row had like basically 100% wins, 99% wins. I may have lost one match but I wasn't getting moved up. And I was like, ooh, so that first year that I did it and I like lost like 35-40% of my matches, I'm like, but it felt so much better to my body to hit the ball how I was supposed to hit the ball instead of trying to control it, right? And then it took about a year and a half and I finally moved up, and you know what, it was so much funner because I was using so much energy to control, and then to just go and just hit the crap out of it and really trust the practice and trust the flow was huge for me. And I think that that's kind of what it's like, is like we're used to controlling a certain amount of the outcome. And if I do this and I do this and I do this, then I get the outcome. But the cost of that is we don't move the dial too much on the life and living we really want, right? And so it's really about being willing to lose a few matches. Maybe you don't get 100 people in the room or whatever it is your goal is trying to however many people on your summit or whatever. But if you're playing authentic to you, you will grow, and you will grow organically and naturally, as we're all designed to do. Like you can't make a plant grow faster than it's going to grow. You can't go out and yell at it and scream at it. Let me give it some more water. Let me put a heat
You can
lamp
try.
right. But that's the other thing, is that, if you look around in nature, if you look at the natural harmony of growth, is that different things bloom at different times. Right?
Mm-hmm.
There's some singers that sort of bloom at 12, but not all singers are going to do that. There's singers that kind of come into their own at 50, 60, right? Because there's a synchronistic timing component in our genetics that actually, when it's time, we bloom. And you can't force that. You can try, but it's not going to actually get you there faster.
Well, I think that letting go of the control is the biggest one of the. I know it is for me, huge,
Mm-hmm.
and then trust on the
Mm-hmm.
other spectrum of that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what and I think that the transformational energy that happens in the workshop is set up to let go of that trust, so that we can receive. I'm sorry, to let go of the control. Let go of trust. I'm gonna let go of trust.
Well, I actually kind of think that, because trust is one of those things that people use to not show up. Well, I don't trust myself yet. I'm looking for trust. So when I trust myself, then I will. And I'm more of a fan of testing. You know what I mean? You didn't trust that you were going to climb a tree when you were 5. You just freaking did it. You didn't trust you were going to swim. You hopped in the pool. It's like the way we create is actually through testing, not trusting.
Christy Tracy says, control? Who, me? Lori says, I love this. Oh, shoot. For some reason, I can't there's all these comments that I can't get to. They just moved through. Oh, here it is. Lori says, I love this, Megan, the energy of just swinging with all your energy and let it fly without controlling. That helps me. Marian says, we think control gives us stability. It doesn't. And anyway, why would we want that over thriving and growing?
Right. right?
Thanks, ladies.
Stability is kind of the booby prize. It's like, okay, you know how many people I meet or who come to coaching who are like, I did all the things and I am bored. And like because they checked all the boxes for all the outcomes. I don't know
Yeah.
where we got the idea that that was living. But
Yeah.
living is like an adventure. It's being in the unknown. It's swinging for the fences and going, okay, well, that's what that created. Now what? Now what I want to create? What's my next adventure? And because creation to me is like each one of us has I don't even know what to call it, a creational blueprint or a creational signature is kind of a word I've been using a little bit lately with it. That when we nourish it, and it's like for me, part of that signature is because so many of us have taken on the realities of our family systems. Okay, creation is struggle, creation is hard, or even like we look at the coaching industry, creation is working 7 days a week, right? And the thing that you got to ask is, what's my reality with creation? What's true for me? And for me, it's fun, it's adventure, it's ease, it's curiosity. What will happen if I do? I've been like this my whole life. Like, what happens if you put this with this? I used to blow up stuff in the science lab all the time. I was always black.
I'm so surprised by that.
Right? What will happen if I do that with that? Okay. So, and that's really that I'm an alchemist at heart, right? And I love to tinker and play and like, okay, cool. Why did that work? And that was a little glitchy. And like I love to play with that. That's part of my creational signature. And when you start to get what that is for you, and then you will start to understand the movement of creation, that jet stream I was talking about, that's when it's like, wow, and I would say I'm still playing with that. I'm still noticing. The cool thing for me is that I'm noticing faster and faster when I'm doing that. And I have my shortcuts back to the space and the movement. And that's part of what I'm going to be teaching in the class, because there is the getting out of the old construct, clearing it, understanding where it came from, blessing it, all of that, understanding what you're getting out of it. And then it's a practice because, as you said, Jen, so deep in the grooves of our brain and our body, right? And it's learning how to interrupt it faster. And it doesn't take very many times to realize that, last week there was just this moment where I was walking into and I was just like, I had so many things in my head and I was like, no. And then I was like, Megan, could you be having more fun with this? I think there's a way that you could be having more fun right now. And all of a
I think I
sudden,
need to tattoo that on my forehead.
right? I should put on the mirrors, right? And all of a sudden, just a space opened up and I just laughed at myself. And I was like, oh, kind of like Winnie the Pooh, like silly old bear. And then I just went back into the space of creation. So I'm discovering ways that can shift it very, very quickly. As I practice being in the jet stream, most of us aren't used to going that fast, right? We really want that. We really want I call it the space of creation, right? The speed of space, right? It's like, we want that. And that's actually, we start actualizing very quickly in that space. But a lot of us are afraid of having everything we want. We're afraid of things going that fast. We're afraid of having everything we want. We haven't even talked about that yet. But
I know, I was remembering the upper limits where you helped us clear some of the upper limits. Oh, there's a whole nother avenue to clear out. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say, like, if there's any way you can get to Dallas, May 13th and 14th, if you're in Dallas, if you're in Texas, I've actually got some people already flying in for it from other places. Dallas is one of my favorite cities. It's so magic, and a lot of people don't know how magic Dallas is. But we're going to have some fun. We're going to open some space of creation. If you haven't been to Dallas, you should give yourself that experience, because it's Friday night and Saturday. You can pop in Friday night and fly out Sunday, and, you don't have to miss any work. But also Like, give yourself the gift of discovering who you are as a creator. And like, what if it were so much easier and so much more fun? And what if you were having so much fun in the creation that the results were like, oh, that's cool. Ooh, but I can't wait to create. Because so many people are going after the result, and that is not authentic creation. That is due to get. That is not ever going to create long-term happiness.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense because you're disconnected from that present experience because you're all
Mhm.
over here, right? So you're not in
Right.
that stream. Yeah. Very cool. Well, I am so excited for you to come. We said May 13th, Friday night, and then all day on the 14th of May. We're going to have gorgeous weather for those of you who don't live in the
Mhm.
area. And yeah, Dallas loves Megan and Megan loves Dallas, and we always have a whole lot of fun and we
Mhm.
always have a whole lot of big transformation, and it's a always like a huge weekend.
Mhm.
So
Mhm. It's going to be fun.
awesome.
It's going to be the best party in Dallas going on that weekend.
Yeah. And you know what? We need to get together in person more often because that's just the nature of this world right now. Like
Mhm.
let's I mean the Zooms are wonderful. I do them. But like let's get together in person because there's just so much greater capacity to really have a good time in that group energy. So I'm excited.
Mhm. Mhm.
Let's
It's time to
see.
come together. Come together.
Yeah, for
Right now. Over me.
Marion says, one of the biggest things I got from that class was being able to own my own choices without making myself wrong for them. And that was a huge game changer for how I create.
Mhm.
Woohoo! All right.
Yeah.
So we will see you in town on May 13th. And thanks for coming on and sharing these insights. I think it's a super valuable and important conversation to have because there is so much out there that is perpetuating doing things the hard way and with these structures, and I think this is a much more aligned, harmonic, and heart-centered space for us to
Mm.
exist in. And again, not whether you're creating for your business or just for your life or your family and whatever it is, it's really about that alignment with the true way of your being and that connection and that heart-centered connection, which is really where we want to take this planet, right? To me, this is like the work that we're doing internally and how this shows up is what ripples out for everyone, where when we get more connected and we hold that vibration within ourselves, then the rest of the planet starts to receive that. Then we stop, shitting all over our planet and being mean to each other because we're in that space of greater harmony within ourselves. So it's creation and everything
Mhm.
else. I mean,
Mhm.
it really is needed for the whole planet. So I'm super
Mhm.
excited and we'll see
Mhm.
you in a few weeks.
Please come. It's going to be amazing. And you're going to be with that's the other thing, just really quickly. If you don't have anybody else in your life doing it with ease, it's going to be hard for you to sustain. Coming with like-minded people who are all like, exploring the same thing. I'm including an 11-day after program with this for people to come together and practice. It's like workshops are amazing and it's great to come together. And I find that if we don't take that big space that we open up to in workshop and direct it into creation, that we can sometimes lose some of it. And so I'm
Mhm.
doing an after program that I'm including in the workshop for 11 days after. You're going to get to create with like-minded people and find your jet stream all together. And it's so fun. It's one of the funnest after programs I've ever done. So there's
That's
tons of
awesome.
support. There's tons of support for not only in the event but following the event, for you to really get out of those constructs and fly and like be with people who are like, yeah, I think we can fly. I don't think we have to push the rock up the hill anymore.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Let's not.
let's
Sisyphus.
let's fly in that jet stream.
That's so fourth BC, man. All right, Jen. I adore
Thank
you.
you,
I
Megan.
can't
I
wait
love
to
you.
kiss your face.
And thanks everyone for watching. We hope to see you soon.